Mega Evolution is dropping in just a couple of days, introducing a whole new mechanic, some broken items, and tons of 3-prize Pokemon with absolutely enormous numbers stacked on their cards. But I'm not interested in any of them. Well, there is one, but we'll get to that later. Today, I want to talk about some of the spicy combos, interesting cards, and delicious off-meta source that I've been theorizing. None of that mainstream stuff that everyone else is excited for. I'm not going to be saying a word about Mega Gardevoir, Mega Venusaur, Mega Lucario. Nah, that's boring. We're here to cook. I've got 5 different ideas that I'll be running through to help kickstart and improve your deck building once Mega Evolutions releases. And you know what? Here's a bonus one. Idea number 0. Subscribe to TimDanklin. That'll help your cooking. Anyway, let's get straight into it because I can't wait to talk about the brand new Gumshoes. And this fella is gathering some evidence. But for what crime? Once during your turn, you may use this ability to switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck. This has 2 main applications. Drawing a card at the cost of putting one from your hand into your deck. And if you don't want to see it again as your next draw, you can always just play another card with a shuffle effect after doing this to randomize it back into the deck. The other primary use case is to stack your deck for the following turn as a preemptive countermeasure against Iono. As you are probably aware, Iono is a 4 in pretty much every deck that intends to take things to the late game, punishing you for aggressively taking knockouts by reducing your hand size to the number of your remaining prize cards. However, this fresh new hand is ripped directly from the top cards of your deck without any shuffling. So, if you have a perfect counter stacked on top, you'll draw right into it every time. We've seen this a lot with the recent rise in Goldengo, an aggressive deck which frequently does this using Cypher Maniac's code breaking, an incredible piece of anti-hand disruption technology. But drawing extra cards and stacking your deck like this are things an aggressive deck wants to be doing. And Gumshoes is a stage 1 Pokemon. How are we ever going out of our way to set this up? Well, this detective also happens to be colorless and have only 100 HP. Perfect for Fan Rotom to enable. In fact, Fan Rotom itself is actually already a tool that many aggressive decks greatly appreciate. 70 damage for a single energy is exactly what you want to be doing on your first turn going second. Decks like Raging Bolt and Terrabox have high-rolled so many games with a turn 1 Assault landing to take a cheeky KO on an evolving Pokemon. Unfortunately, it's really only been able to pair with the Noctowl engine so far, and that doesn't exactly slot into every deck, given its prerequisite of also playing Terra Pokemon. The next best options are things like Dunsparce, even though you can't find a Dunsparce off of Fan Rotom, or Dodrio's Zooming Draw, which isn't exactly ideal. The sheer value of Fan Rotom's Assault landing is perfectly demonstrated by the recent success of Secret Box Goldengo, which incorporates Fan Rotom on its own without any colorless partners. On top of all this, both Yungoos and Gumshoe only have 1 retreat cost, and a nice usable colorless attack in case they ever get trapped in the active. So yeah, I am really looking forward to testing out this combo in a few aggressive decks that previously couldn't make good use of Fan Rotom. Just imagine a Roaring Moon deck that easily slaps for 70 on turn 1 with a single energy and minimal investment, and then proceeds to stack Professor Sada's Vitality on top of their deck every single turn for the rest of the game. That combo is great for anyone who loves playing aggressive decks, but how about something that's perfect for countering exactly that? I am incredibly excited to build some decks that utilize the new Acerola's Mischief. This is a supporter that you can only use if your opponent has 2 or fewer prizes remaining. A key thing to note is that unlike Briar, your opponent is unable to work around this by going down to just a single prize. If this condition is met, you can choose one of your Pokemon in play, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's EX fellas. Blocking effects of attacks means you're also resistant to things like Roaring Moon's Frenzied Gouging or Dragapult's Phantom Dive spread damage. Another important factor that's pretty unique to this card is the ability to target not only your active, but any of your Pokemon. So you could protect a bench liability from getting gusted or sniped on that final turn. This card is such an incredible tool for countering those generic decks that just aim to force a 2-2-2 prize map, without having any serious way to deviate from that initial strategy. I'm looking at you, Joltik Box. Although it's not quite as effective against the more intricate and dynamic decks like Gardevoir or Dragapult, since since they often reward long-term planning, setting up and executing large multi-prize turns to end games, meaning that they can pretty easily play around going down to 2 prizes. However, decks like Gholdengo, Raging Bolt, and Joltik are basically required to give you an opportunity for mischief. I really hope this card does become relevant in the meta. It'll be interesting to see those decks adapt and build around bracing for that critical Acerola turn. So what are some combos that we can pull off with this anti-aggro option? The way I see it, there are 2 main ways to effectively get value out of this card. The first is to force your opponent down to 2 prizes remaining while you only have a single EX Pokemon in play. Maybe something like a Charizard or Blood Moon Ursaluna. At this point, you can make it immune with Acerola's Mischief and guarantee yourself an additional turn. Alternatively, if your board has multiple 2 prize options, playing Acerola's Mischief as your supporter for turn in combination with any other non-supporter forms of disruption, like Counter Catcher or Unfair Stamp, will force your opponent to get around your now functionally invincible active. Personally, I just want to slam down Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, make it immune to other rule box Pokemon, rip an Unfair Stamp, KO their active, and say good luck. I feel like the best enablers for something like this are either Pidgeot EX to cherry pick the required combo pieces out with Quick Search, or a powerful draw engine like Zoroark EX's Trade ability, which lets you dig through and compress your deck over the course of a game to almost always end up with this combo available by the time you need it. I'm not sure exactly how it'll all fit together, but it seems like an extremely viable control style endgame. And don't forget, you aren't limited to just one of these. There is nothing stopping you from playing more copies of Acerola's Mischief and just refreshing your immunity until you win. Now, let's take a look at that Mega Evolution that I hinted at earlier, because I think people are seriously underrating Mega Kangaskhan EX. I feel like it's easy to write this off as a meme, because of its attack being in that same style of flip until you hit tails, which is stamped on so many other bulk cards. But that 200 damage minimum is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Sure, you might not know exactly how much damage you'll do, but even 200 for 3 colorless is nothing to sneeze at. And of course, sometimes you will just high roll and randomly one-shot another Mega Pokemon when you didn't expect to. The 3 colorless cost is also important to talk about since it can be satisfied by literally any energy type. This means you can package it in with some Dark Energy for Munkidori, Fire for some spicy tech attackers, Grass for Teal Mask Ogerpon to accelerate energy, or literally any other synergy that you can think of. Plus, being a colorless Pokemon itself means you get to make use of the heavily underrated Glass Trumpet item, as long as you've got a Terra Pokemon in play. The really big thing here though is the big number in the top right of the card. 300 HP for a basic is absolutely insane. And again, benefiting from its colorless typing, Kangaskhan can be buffed by Buffalon's Curly Wall ability. You can even throw a Bravery Charm on top of all that and suddenly you're at an effective 410 HP. If a Gholdengo player prizes just 2 energies, they literally cannot one-shot this. And even if they do, a single Badoo threatens to lock them out of the remainder of the game. 410 HP means that a Gardevoir player with 3 fully charged Munkidoris and a Bravery Charmed Drifloon still cannot KO you. Plus, since Buffalon provides constant damage reduction, weaker attacks like Grimmsnarl's Shadow Bullet will now be 4-shotting you. And this whole time I've been glazing Mega Kangaskhan, I haven't even mentioned its ridiculously broken ability that will honestly probably allow it to see play in many decks where it has absolutely zero intention of ever attacking. Run Errand allows you to draw 2 cards if this Pokemon is in the active spot, for free. If you're playing this tanking Mega Kangaskhan combo deck, then your card draw engine is almost single-handedly sorted from this one core Pokemon that you already want to be shoving in the active. Perfect. How about an extra spicy one next? This new Tinkertuff essentially has Crushing Hammer on an ability whenever it evolves into play, although it does have the unfortunate downside of only affecting the active Pokemon, which could definitely pose some problems if your opponent is able to build up threats on the bench. Right now, it is really difficult to efficiently recycle items, so Crushing Hammer spam isn't exactly doable after those first 4 flips. However, it is a lot easier to recycle Pokemon. Now, you could just play this with some basic way to loop it, like Professor Turo's scenario. Or you could go absolutely all in with this meme, including combos like using Area Zero to expand your bench, then bumping it with another Stadium or Chen Pao to delete 3 of your Tinkertuffs, and finally playing Sacred Ash to recycle everything back into the deck. Then just do it all over again for tons of chances at removing the active Pokemon's energy. Now, don't ask me what this is going to do against something like Raging Bolt or Gardevoir, because I have no clue. clue. But it does sound really funny into decks like Goldingo or Dragapult, especially if you pair it with some cheeky item lock. You could definitely ruin someone's day. Now for the last one, and yeah, it may seem a bit too standard at first, but Solrock and Lunatone are just such an absolutely insane powerhouse duo. It's not just for the obviously broken draw effect. Honestly, hitting 70 unresistible damage for a single energy is nuts. I already spoke to the power of a turn 1 Fan Rotom Assault landing, and this is really similar, if not even easier to establish, since it's often less effort to find a second basic Pokemon compared to a Stadium on turn 1. I think the issue is people really aren't thinking out of the box with this pair. You aren't limited to just playing this in some dedicated fighting deck like the standard Mega Lucario EX pile. This package can slot into so many different builds, and I really want people to experiment more with it. Ceruledge EX is another relatively obvious one, but it's got the right idea. A deck with tons of space to throw in spare energy which can enable that Lunar Cycle draw. Plus, Ceruledge really appreciates having a solid one-prize attacking partner as well. And if we're stacking the deck with fighting energy, you can't forget about Dig 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 Drillbar. Goldingo similarly loves drawing cards, having energy in the bin, and as we saw with the Fan Rotom builds, 70 from a one-prizer is exactly what the deck needs in a lot of positions. A Goldingo build with 4 metal energy and 7 fighting would actually go so hard. This combo is also one of the few ways that you can draw a significant number of cards on the very first turn of the game. Other than Carmine and Squawkabilly EX, there really aren't that many ways to immediately turbo through your deck. I am really missing Comfy, Pokestop, and trekking shoes right about now. But yeah, seriously, try thinking out of the box on this one and see which decks you can rework to incorporate this powerful cosmic duo. And while I'm still thinking about the new fighting types, bonus shout out to Tyrogue, because with a 0 energy attack and that broken new item, you can rip a couple premium power pros, use an energy to retreat instead of attack like you would with other options, and then almost always take the first KO, even if you don't flip any heads. It's giving vibes like a baby version of Fusion Strike Meloetta Donk. I don't know, I just want to see someone hit huge numbers with this baby Pokemon. It's probably not actually great. New set releases are my favorite time to play Pokemon for a reason, so go and get creative. I'd love to see what you can cook up with all these ingredients, or anything else that you're personally keen on. Let me know down in the comments, and since you made it this far, you should probably like and subscribe as well. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and shout out to these specific fellas for the extra love and support. If you want to be insanely based like them, then consider becoming a YouTube channel member or Patreon supporter. Cheers.